Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Hard Hat Talks podcast. I've got Marie Johnston with me today from the Wilson Property Group in Edinburgh. Marie, welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
Fantastic. Marie, we've known each other for a few years, originally through B&I, which was something we were both passionate. I think you're still in B&I, yeah?
No, I've not been in for a wee while.
Oh, no, right, okay. Well, we can chat about that one offline then, that's fine. Marie, tell us a wee bit about yourself in terms of how you started out in the property business.
In the property world. So a little bit of background about me. So I have ran my own businesses for over 20 years. I've had businesses starting out in accountancy, had businesses in pretty much every sector you can imagine. Not had an architect, mind you. But I've had a lot of different sectors and businesses across those sectors. 2017, I had a sales and marketing agency which I ran for 11 years, predominantly working with companies and businesses down in London. So I spent quite a bit of time down there. We also done, in 2017, we took on the projects for Stratton Parker and Collier's Group in doing all their marketing and first set of virtual videos way before COVID made that a requirement that we had them moving forward. So I got a bit of a taster there. I also got a bit of a taster from one of my other clients where I was involved in the sale of a portfolio of Hilton hotels in Scotland. And I remember saying at the time, when I retire, I'm going to go into property because I felt like it was one of the easiest sales that I had done. And I thought, oh my God, imagine getting that much money for selling that. So fast forward, COVID happened and I thought, right, time to refocus. I've always had quite often 3 businesses at any one time, which meant I do a lot of travelling. And I thought, right, after COVID, let's just nail it all down. So sold businesses that I had, made a decision to open Wilson Property Group. So we tested it first and foremost as a department within my sales and marketing agency. When did I do that? 2021, ran it for a year, but I only did it 2 days a week for that first year. I'm quite risk adverse, so I like to know something works before I try. And I managed to sell £26 million worth of property in 2 days a week. I thought, wow, okay. So on the back of that, if I set up the business, I've definitely got a good, good understanding of how this works. So that's what I did.
Excellent.
And here we are today.
So quite entrepreneurial then, if you've got more than several businesses over the course of your career, but running 2 or 3 at the same time.
Yeah.
What inspired that? I mean, something that a childhood event, something inspired you to go down that route?
I don't think so. I think I'm just a workaholic.
All right. Okay.
I think the workaholic probably runs in the family, and that's where I get it from. I quite like getting involved with lots of different things instead of just doing one thing. So being an accountant was one thing, but actually doing accounts all day, that's not me. I like to meet people. I'm very much a people's person. I love cars and motorbikes. So therefore I decided, we were one of the first car washes with foam car washes. So I set up Bubbles foam centres across Scotland at one point as well. That was the first one again to come to market. That was way back 2002. Now they're everywhere, which is great. But yeah, there's lots of, I just like, you have to make money, so make money on what you like, and I've always just I've always been quite successful at buying and selling and moving things on. Oh,
great stuff. So now you've got the Wilson Property Group, which I know a little bit about because we've had some conversations, and you're obviously looking at selling some fairly high-end properties through in Edinburgh. Tell us a wee bit more about that business then and what you're up to in that just now.
So what are we up to just now? So we've got 4 members of staff at the moment. We've got offices in Collington Village in Edinburgh. And we're just going strength to strength, really. We've sold some of the biggest houses in Edinburgh to be sold in the last year. So from going from not being in property to then being in property within a couple of years, we've hit the ground running. And safe to say we've had a lot of big houses now, so we're doing really well. The staff are all on board, doing great, all trained up. Working through, some of them qualified, some of them still working towards their qualification. Doing really well.
So I know a little bit about your business again, and my understanding is you work for some fairly high net worth individuals in terms of sourcing for properties for them and also selling properties on as well.
Correct. Yeah. So we do a mix of both. The sourcing side of things, We don't do a huge amount of it. We limit it to a maximum of 1 or 2 per month.
Right.
And that's just so that the staff that are working on that have got the full, the capacity to actually go out there and do what we need to do. But yes, we do. And what we're finding a lot of at the moment is a lot of clients coming to us and saying, right, we want properties abroad now. They don't want their money in the UK. A lot of people want to invest into properties abroad. So hence the reason we've now partnered up with developers worldwide to be able to service that.
Right. And is there a reason why they're looking to go abroad?
I think a mix of things. A lot of people, I think just a lot of the tax changes, the funding change. There's so much going on in the UK at the moment that the investment side of things are always up and down. And I think people get to a point where they've just had enough and they want something a bit more stable that's just taken care of for them.
Right. So are these typically Scottish people who are looking to move abroad?
Not looking to move abroad. A lot of them are looking just to
abroad.
get their money into properties abroad.
Right. Okay.
So a lot of these clients, we work with them to maybe sell a house here. They sell their home here, and then they'll say, right, now we want to, now that we know that you do investment properties abroad, can we talk about that? And they'll say, right, here's the budget we have, and then we'll work on that and getting them that as well.
It's interesting that because I follow quite a few influencers on social media, and there's a lot of rumours just now about your high net worth individuals, millionaires. They're all selling up, moving from the UK to Dubai and other glorious, nice, sunny places. So is that something you're starting to see? Yeah. Is it the mass exodus that the media would suggest?
I wouldn't say it's a mass exodus. I mean, people are still have their residencies here. They still have their homes here. Their kids, a lot of their children still go to school here. What we're finding is, whereas before they would happily keep their money in the UK, a lot of people want their money out and into properties worldwide. They don't want to hold all the money here anymore.
Right.
That's certainly what we're seeing at the moment.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Okay. So the podcast is the Hard Hat podcast. Hard Hat is probably aptly named because we want to ask some hard-hitting questions. In your industry, obviously, as far as architects are concerned, we do so much of the process and handle so much of the process. Then comes the dialogue and the conversation about sales and selling on properties, whether that's residential or commercial, what have you. But we see kind of all the front end challenges. But I guess if you've never developed, you probably wouldn't understand some of the challenges in the sales side of property. So, is there challenges for you? Is that the biggest issues? What's the biggest issues in terms of moving properties on?
So if we look at the residential market in particular, residential market is easy to sell houses. The selling of the houses is the easy part. We always find anyway. We've got quite a unique strategy where we're selling homes, especially if it's luxury homes. We have 34 versions of Rightmove, if you like, across the world. So for us, selling homes is not difficult. Selling homes is the easy part. Moving them on in Scotland can be difficult from the point of view of once we hand it over for the conveyancing part. That's a difficult process. If we look at the developer side, I can give you an example. I can give you quite a few examples where we've been out on sites and we've had a look at plans, had a look at budgets, where builders will come to us or developers will come to us and say, right, we're thinking of using Wilson Property Group to sell these homes once they're built. Can you give us prices? And we look at that, and I take that, straight down to let's see your P&L, right? Let's look at the actual price. Where do we need to be at? And I had one recently, to give you an example, where he came to us and he said, right, I already know my houses are going to be 6 luxury homes just outside Edinburgh. I already know, because we've had the bigger agents out, they're worth 1.2 to 1.3 million. Our accountants recommended we meet you first before we do anything else. He says, and so let's see what we can do. So we sat down. The valuation, there were so many different factors that had not been considered, in my opinion, in that valuation. So when I looked at it, more often than not, when you do a developer's one like that, you're usually looking at it in its conservative values. So actually there's quite a lot of manoeuvre to say, well, yeah, that's great, because if your numbers are based on this and we get more, it's all profit, great. But what I'm finding more of now when I'm doing that is that a lot of agents will way overprice what these developments are going to be worth. And then when it comes to the sales process, they use the timing as when we said it was worth this, that was a year ago, that was 2 years ago, the market's changed, they're worth a lot less. So from a building perspective, this last year in particular, it can be difficult. So my recommendation is always to make sure you get back up evidence of where you're at and allow for the market changes. The market doesn't change hugely, but it does if you get a way over valuation. So that one in particular, great location just outside Edinburgh, right next to a main commute road though. So it will be noisy. 7 luxury homes, but the luxury homes within 3/4 of a mile, there's also maybe about 30 luxury homes there. They all sell between 1 million and 1.1, and they're on much bigger plots and much bigger houses. So where the valuations there come in at 1.2 to 1.3, I've got absolutely no idea where they come in because it was all wrong.
Yeah.
But that made a big difference when you look at the overall picture. You know, when you're building houses, you need accurate data, accurate information. And quite often that's not the case.
Yeah, I think we work with quite a few developers, and some of them we don't actually get to know the end values of what they're working to. Some of that information is guarded, you know.
Absolutely.
And I dare say, yeah, maybe, obviously you'll need to know because you're trying to sell it for them, so you need to know what the aspirations are. So it's always interesting from an architect's perspective that, you know, we're challenged at times on, well, what's the cost? How much is it going to cost me to build that? But similarly, well, what do you want to sell it for as well? You know, and that can affect things like specification of kitchens and bathrooms and finishes and what have you. So the kind of market that the Edinburgh market then, is that Is it a kind of £500,000 upward type house that you're selling through there, or is there a limit on it?
We've got lots. Obviously, we've got the staff all there, so we do specialise in luxury homes, which is why we have so many portals to go across. Should we need to advertise in different countries? However, so we sell anything from £100,000 flats to portfolios through to £6 million properties in Edinburgh. So there's not, you know, we're not capped on what we do. We've got a different approach. Obviously, different price levels have different approaches that work better. But we cover everything.
Yeah, okay. So I know when I was developing houses and selling houses, there was that thing of trying to, you know, get the pace of sales up, because we were doing 30 houses at one point. So you wanted to make sure that if you were building these, that they were flowing through. Does that happen at all in the Edinburgh market? If you're talking about 6, 7 houses, I mean, I guess every developer would like to sell them all, you know, off plan if they possibly could. But is that realistic through there?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's where I think sometimes there can be issues where maybe they're not sold off plan soon enough.
Right.
I think, you know, there's lots of different opportunities in sales to get your captive audience. The first time is obviously you're off plan at a good price. It's going to be a captive audience, but then as soon as you've got your first one ready, you're ready for the next. In my opinion, you should have sold 50% off plan before you've even ready for your first house.
Right.
It's a securer way for everyone to do it.
Before you've started even.
Well, it's the way when I look at other parts of the world, and we work with developers in Marbella at the moment, we've got developers in Oman and in Dubai. They work very differently to the builds than what we do. So when they have luxury homes, almost all of their luxury homes are sold the year before they even started building.
Oh, really?
Because it's the best way to do it. You're giving people it for the best price, but equally you then know your exact budget, you've got your deposits in, you know where you are from a financial point of view. Whereas for ourselves, we kind of work backwards that way. You know, this is the price, and then we work backwards, and then when we get to the point where we've got our first one ready to sell, then you don't know where you are until the agents come back out and confirm whether or not that price is correct.
Right. So there's no stigma then about people investing in unbuilt properties, no? Because years ago there was, the whole Spanish thing was, you know, don't buy off plan because the builder's going to go under, or developers were going under and what have you.
I think that there's different security measures you can put in place to ensure that you've got that protection, so that that's not going to be an issue. But I do think we need to start looking at that as an industry. I think we missed a trick there.
All right, interesting. That's worth exploring, maybe.
Maybe.
No, I mean, we've just bought a place in Spain, and that was one of my things, because we were looking, and one of the properties was, although the site had started, it was still at least a year away before the flat was ready, the part would be ready, and I'm thinking, okay, I know you've started, but still, you know, because there was a lot of things about Spain about, you know, developers going under and what have you, but we did find out that, true or not true, but the estate agents told us that the Spanish law had changed, and that if you put a deposit down, it's then backed by the Spanish government. And I thought, well, that could change it then, so we don't lose it then,
Yeah.
which did change things, albeit we never bought that flat. There was one around the corner that was finished and furnished, and we thought, that's nice, that'll do us, But it did make me rethink it. There is a lot of talk down south with some of the property trainers about, buying off plan now. It seems to be a resurgence in it, I think.
Yeah. I think certainly for ourselves, the properties that we have, Dubai, Oman and Marbella in particular, they're all off plan. But the developers are on the London Stock Exchange.
Right.
So you have a lot more certainty. I think it's just making sure that if you are going off plan, you need to know that you've got to have certainty. If you're going to put, money into something, you need some form of certainty that it's, like you say, if they go bust, they're not walking with your money.
Yeah.
So we the ones that we are working with at the moment, as I say, it's a lot more secure when you know they're on the stock exchange. Your money's safe where it's going to be. They're not going anywhere.
Okay. So if there was any the big one issue for you in your profession, or maybe for your clients in the industry? Tough question, I know.
Tough question. The truth is, do you tell the truth or do you wash over it? No, the biggest issue I have is usually the length of time it's taken to do the conveyancing for property sales.
Right.
If we reversed 10 years ago in property sales, your conveyancing, your offer came in, everything was done in a timely manner, and within 2 to 3 weeks you were signed up, you were ready. Your date for moving might be further away, but all the paperwork was done, and you knew that was secure. The problem I have at the moment is there seems to be there's no time scales. The rules are there are no rules when it goes over to conveyancing. Unfortunately, we set a move date. Everything's handed over, you've got everything that you need, and you're really at the beck and call of how busy your solicitor's going to be as to whether or not they're going to give it the time between now or the week before you move in.
Right, okay.
Which makes it really, really stressful for clients. Because you can't do anything until your missives are done in Scotland in particular. And if your missives are not going to be done because your solicitor's busy and they're not going to do it until the week before, or indeed the day before, which sometimes happens, what do? Yeah,
because there's that thing of the speed at which they look at it is the speed at which they find the problems. Because we've got clients who are trying to move houses and move properties from an architect's perspective. Yeah. It's whether they've got their paperwork in place. They've maybe made alterations to the house at some point in the past and thought, well, everything's fine, and then, I'm moving. I never thought I would ever need to move, is usually the thing. Yeah. And then they're moving, and it's a matter of trying to pull together paperwork. Sometimes I think that gets in front of the solicitors as well, and I don't know sometimes if they just close their book and think, I'll get to that at some point in the future.
I think the difficulty is because they are so busy, and the demand for the conveyancing is huge at the moment. So if you're only one person, if that one solicitor's got 50 clients that they're trying to get through, it's very difficult for them to do it. So it's all done in a timely manner based on when you're going to move. Things like that. That's something that we ask from the offset. From the offset, we do work slightly differently in that way than other agents. That's something that I would be asking the question at the very beginning. Right, okay, so what have you changed since you've been in the house? Do you have your planning? Do you have your consents? Do you have your completion certificates? Get them all out now. Let's get them checked. And we do all of that at the beginning, because then when you get to that point, you've already got everything. The solicitor has everything that they need to be able to start and process.
So it's proactive. It's a proactive service then.
Well, it is.
Yeah. I think that's probably one of the things that we're seeing just now, and not just the industry, but across society, is that people are becoming less proactive and not thinking things through and hitting walls, and just because they've not thought things through. And this whole thing of everybody seems to be busy. I think, well, busy doing what? What are we actually busy doing? Because we've got in our industry that my phone call just before I came in here, looking for an update on a project. And I'm checking the file and I'm thinking, that's been 4 or 5 weeks since we've heard from that other professional consultant, which happens to be a structural engineer. And I'm thinking, so what's happening? Is everybody just working on other stuff? Or, why are these projects, why is there no communication of 4 or 5 weeks?
It's difficult. It's very difficult. That's something I was working on before I came out this morning. So normally every Friday, Fridays are chasing solicitors days for us. That's all 4 of us in the office. That's what we do on a Friday. We chase solicitors to say, right, okay, last week we spoke, this was the case. Has that moved on? Do you have this document? Do you need me to intervene? Do you need me to help with that? Because when we pass over, once upon a time, you would have been able to hand that over and that was the end of it. But if I don't keep tab on that and I don't check in every week to see everyone's happy and everything's still happening, that's how you get sales falling through.
Yeah.
You know, a simple one this morning. So the date, there's 4 in the chain. One of the solicitors had, at the bottom of the chain, had changed the date. But all 3 of the others hadn't changed their date.
Ah, right.
So she had issued a missive with a date on it that was wrong. So everything stopped. It's been sitting there for 3 weeks. When I chased the last couple of weeks, I was told everything was in order. It's all in order. This week we realised it's not in order. What's going on with this? So phoned around all the clients, the buyers and sellers in the process, and it's like a blame game. They said, he said, she said.
Yeah.
It goes round a big circle.
Yeah.
And the long story short of it was actually the solicitor had made an error on the move date, issued a missive with the wrong move date, and everyone else went, oh, that's not the date we're moving.
Oh dear.
And it had stopped. So this morning, by me intervening, it's now all going to, everybody will now get it all sorted out and the original move date will be reinstructed. But if I didn't make that call, that could have been a situation where everything fell through the week before people move because the process hasn't been complete, or the conveyancing for all of those haven't been complete on the basis that everything stopped a couple of weeks ago. So
is the process too complex, or is it just people just aren't doing their jobs?
Just total lack of communication.
Lack of communication.
Solicitors can only communicate with their clients and then the solicitors from the other side. So it makes it very difficult from them from a communication point of view because you're not dealing with everyone in the chain. The only person that has access to everyone in the chain is the agent. Now, in most cases, the agent would hand everything back and say, right, I've sold my house, this is your problem. But when you do that, it means that the in-between, if there's someone else in that chain, you don't know what's happening, then you can lose control of it quite quickly.
Right, yeah. So do you feel that's something that is unique to your company in terms of being proactive to fix that stuff?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We love a good moan on a Friday, we do. Chase.
Coffee, yum yum and a moan. That's it.
Yeah, that's all good. It's all good.
Good.
Somebody's got to do it, so at least, you know, I guess at least our clients know that we're on it. So
yeah, no, it's a good thing. Yeah, I think it's we try and instill that here in Block Architects as well. That you know, we try and be proactive with these things because there's so many moving parts in what we're doing. You know,
there is.
And even to the extent that we do sometimes get involved with communications with sales agents as well. You know, just to can we get the certificate? Can we get this? Can we get that? It just keeps everything flowing and hopefully gets towards the end. Because I mean, if you're building a house, you can be 3 years from start to handing over the keys sometimes, you know. That's it.
And to be fair, in the defence of the solicitors, it's not always easy. You know, there are sometimes those side angles or things coming in from a side, you know, that are unusual, that need to be dealt with. But again, it's in the communication. If something's difficult or something unusual is going on, if I know about it, we might have a solution already in place. But if we don't know about it and nobody communicates, it just sits on a desk somewhere with nothing.
I think that's one of the things as well, but solicitors is they don't get paid a lot of fees for doing these transactions.
No. And and they've got so many clients to try and deal with.
Well, that's my point. It's almost like, you know, the low fees stack them high to make their money. So they're I would say, I'm not going to make excuses for them. They don't have the time to spend. No. I would thought, you know.
And to be fair, it is difficult as well because they're, you know, more often than not, you know, when a house sale comes through and the client says, great, we've accepted an offer, it's coming through from the agent and it's the offer's through, here's the home report, here's the offer, get on with it. And then they step away and then nothing else is done until the solicitor has the time to do it. And that's why we try and be a bit more proactive to say, well, look, they've done alterations, here's all the paperwork, you know, here's everything that you need, hopefully to get the Q&A done quickly and efficiently. And then once that process is done, it's a lot easier.
Well, I remember going into our solicitors, there was, I don't know, maybe a handful of partners and some obviously solicitors working with them, but there was like 15 people answering phones and all they're doing is fielding calls, passing on messages because it's just it was crazy. Busy. Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, I've not worked with a solicitor for a while, so I'll certainly keep that in mind for going forward. Anything else in the industry that you're happy about just now? Anything that's going great?
Do you know what's great? The mortgage rates have come down again, so that's stabilised everything again.
Yep.
I mean, things are selling really quickly again. Back to they're in and they're out. Usually within a week to 10 days, they're in, they're out, they're gone. They're moved on.
Oh, great. Okay.
So it's quite quick.
Good.
Quick process.
it's not really a political show, this, but I'm going to ask the question: have you seen any changes in things since Labour have come in? Is there anything from our perspective? I'll be honest. I'll ask the reason why I'm asking the question is because we, as architects, haven't seen very many changes in terms of how it's affected our industry here in Scotland. I just wondered if you've seen anything changes in terms of the sales industry.
We've had a huge impact that's happened, probably that a lot of people don't realise it's happened. So when there was a 20% increase in school fees, that's had a huge impact on a lot of people.
All right.
Because people assume, I think there's that big assumption that was made, and I think that was driven by the government, that, our children that go to private schools, their parents, are multi-billionaires and they've got all this money and they don't know what to do with it all. But in actual fact, an awful lot of people make that choice, and actually, you might have one parent working full time just to pay the school fees.
Yeah.
And what I've seen, certainly from the house sales side of things, is a huge volume of people coming to us and saying, look, we need to remortgage to accommodate this, and putting them in contact with people to be able to do that. We've got a lot of mortgage advisors that we work quite closely with, so we'll put them in contact. But we've also had quite a few that have come to us and say, we can't remortgage because we're already remortgaged to the max, and we now need to sell our house and buy something much smaller.
But actually still keeping the kids in the school, though,
the kids in the school. The problem, you've got two kind of situations there. You've got some kids can't be moved if you're in a situation they can't be moved because there's not anywhere to put them. So the state, certainly from the Edinburgh point of view, the state schools don't have capacity to take the children. But the other thing is if you take a child out in amongst 2 years, say, of their GCSEs, the Scottish schools don't do GCSEs. You can't just slot them in to do. You'd need to start them again, so they need to drop back a year and start again. And that's not always easy either. You could sometimes be putting a 16-year-old into classes with 13 and 14-year-olds because it's going to have to start again. That's not an ideal scenario.
No, it's not very well thought through, really, is it?
I think just the notice period as well, it's been a real problem. And from the house sales, it has impacted a lot of people, a lot more than probably people realised.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. People at different levels think about wealth and think that if you're at the next level, you're all so much more wealthier,
Yeah.
But it's like, I mean, people might think that about me, but I've got a nice car, my wife's got a nice car, we've got a nice house, we've got property, but you still go at the end of the month and go, you make sure we get paid this month, because you've got to feed the bigger lifestyle,
course.
And I was with someone not too long ago who's got a very attractive house in South Lanarkshire. Loads of grounds, he's got a tractor to cut the grass, all that kind of stuff. But it was like £15,000 a month just to run the estate.
Yeah.
You go, £15,000 just before he's even fed himself, or put clothes on his back or anything like that. It's a lot of money. So, no, that's interesting that you say that, though, because I'm keen to ask, the people who come on what kind of changes are happening, because I think where we're at just now in the UK, politics and government is affecting a lot of stuff in terms of UK construction industry and everything else.
Yeah.
And I reflect on the story as well. It was someone was telling me that their kid had to go into public education because they couldn't afford the private education. They got into a local school, but there's something about the local authority to pay something like £8,500 for a taxi for them for the year to get them to school.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's just crazy.
It's just crazy.
Well, it is. I mean, we've seen a huge increase in the number of people looking for houses in and around sort of the top schools. If you look at the Edinburgh schools, for instance, you've got your Boroughmuir High School, you've got James Gillespie's, and you've got Fair Hill, 3 really good state schools. And what we found is people trying to sell their houses and move so that they're in the catchment. And an awful lot of people that just, that they're managing to fund. A parent yesterday, in fact, that I was sitting with, they're managing to fund their 2 children at their private school up until the summer. But they need to move house now to get into a catchment for a school. Because they can't afford to do it anymore. So having to sell their house, move to locations to get that schooling. But then you look at the school waiting lists and you're not guaranteed a place anymore. We
just shows you how broken it is, though, doesn't it?
It really is. I mean, we had a lady just recently that's bought a flat in Collington, and her and her 2 boys have moved to Collington so that the kids could go to Firhill High School. They're currently at a private school in Morningside, and she's just been told, I'm really sorry, we don't have any space available at the moment for your age group. So they've offered them sort of the local ones as Wester Hales was the only other option for them.
Right.
but it's a huge shift.
It's a huge shift. And also, I mean, my kids are just about to leave high school, but I would hate to have had to say to them, you're going to have to leave the comfort of your friends, your friend group, everything, and put them somewhere else,
Yeah, it is. It's difficult. Very difficult. There's a lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm. So not too long ago, I say not too long ago, it might have been a wee while ago, maybe in the last year or so, I met one of your colleagues from Glasgow. Mm-hmm. How's things going in Glasgow, Edinburgh? Is there similarities, or is there big differences in terms of the property market?
The Edinburgh market's faster, a lot more buoyant. Right. The Glasgow market takes a bit longer. But when it comes to luxury homes, it doesn't really make too much of a difference. To be fair, it's a different market.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I think wherever you are, once you get over the sort of 2 million mark, then it's a very different strategy. So I think, we've got databases of people from other countries waiting to come in that are waiting on properties coming on the market. So we're quite fortunate that we don't really have any issues wherever the location.
All right, okay.
We've got one in Inverness at the moment. We've got a 5.5 million estate in Inverness. That's sold in the first 8 weeks of having it. And then it fell through, so I had to go back on, and it's back on now. But we're now seeing a flurry of people coming internationally to come and see the house. So things sell. Doesn't matter where it is. I think if it's priced right and people are in search of these kind of properties. So.
Well, Scotland is nice. No one can deny that Scotland is nice when the weather's, I mean, I know the viewers can't see it, but it's a glorious sunny day outside today. It's great for golf. It's great for Loch Lomond. It's great for the beach. When the sun's shining and it's not raining and miserable, Scotland's great.
Yeah, that very small 10%.
That's it. Yeah, the 3, 4, 5 days of a year when it does that. No, that's great. Fantastic. All of our guests usually leave a question for the next guest. Now this is and I had to write this one down because there's a couple of sides to this one, and I thought I'll never remember this all, so I wrote it down. And it's probably not in you're not necessarily in your field, but I'm going to ask you this anyway.
Okay.
Right. So it's the year 2050. Mm-hmm. We're in Glasgow, and a new Scottish Parliament building has been built in Glasgow.
Okay.
Yeah. It's been designed to passive house standards, which is really quite high energy efficiency. But it's been designed by AI, and it's been 3D printed using recycled materials. There's an architect at my brain.
Brilliant.
There's an architect at my brain who's just dancing on this one, So there's been, I feel like, minimal human intervention in terms of design and the construction works on site. And the real question then is, in terms of lifespan, do you think that building would be longer or shorter than the current Parliament building in Edinburgh?
It'd have been easier to answer the question of the cost.
Of course. I guess it's a bit of an aspirational question in terms of what you think buildings could be in the future.
Yeah, I mean, building built of recycled plastic, I'm thinking.
Maybe not very recyclable. Well, it could be recycled plastic, I suppose, yeah.
Well, the thing is, these AI things are great, and they give you, if you use AI for anything, that ask it a question, it'll always give you the answer you want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So you might get a building that you want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Will it be functional? Will the
Yeah.
plastic melt?
Plastic could melt, yeah.
Is it taken into account that we don't get sunshine very often?
Well, is that it? Is AI that clever? I don't know.
Well, that's it. I don't know myself. I think it only takes into... I was listening to a podcast the other day, actually, about the AI. And it is interesting, but I think we're still a way off to getting all the right answers on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think people buy people, and there's a lot to be said for the human element of everything.
Yeah.
I mean, the one I was listening to in particular was to do with medicines, but buildings would be the same, I guess, wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
it? It takes all the information and the factual information, and then it gives you what you want to hear based on that. But there's always so many factors. So.
Yeah, I was thinking about this question because I had to listen to this question last night again, and then I wrote it down because I'm thinking I'll forget that. But I was thinking about it myself, that as designers, we design things, and ultimately that's kind of like engineering, and that's the human element of what we do.
Yeah.
Not to get too spiritual, but heaven and earth was here before we were here, and look at how amazing it is.
Yeah.
And we have had no input in designing that whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, so you do start to think about AI being artificial. It's created by humans. It's artificial in the best sense of the word. So I don't think it could ever really design the way a human could design, nor pushing towards nature in terms of how Mother Nature designs either.
No.
So I wonder how long the building would last, or if it would just blow away in the wind. I don't know. Don't think robots could necessarily design it. Might come in cheaper than the Edinburgh Parliament, right enough.
I think it definitely will. I think it
could.
definitely come in.
I think we'll still be paying that one off by 2050.
Then we can add the trans to
it. we can add the trans. Fantastic. Well, the tradition is to leave a question for the next guest. So, and I know you don't
even have a question because I could not think of a question.
Could I just ask them what coffee they like? I don't know.
There you go. That's what to do. To your coffee.
To your coffee. Okie dokie, fantastic. Maria, thank you for coming on the Hard Hat Talks podcast. You've given us a few bits and bobs to think about there. It's great to get an update on what's happening in the property sector in Scotland and some insights into what you're doing abroad. If there's anyone looking to get in contact with you, how's best to reach out to
you? Straight through our website. wilsonpropertygroup.co.uk is probably the easiest way.
Right, fantastic. Okay, well, Maria, thank you for coming on, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you for having me.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
There you go. Thanks for tuning in to the Hard Hat Talks. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your shows. That way, you'll be sure to never miss an episode. If you've any feedback or a topic you want us to tackle, please drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. Till next time, stay safe, stay sharp, and keep your hard hat on.